Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Kakadash. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, the rule well and teach well. And salutations to all the Akim who's pushing his truth in all honesty and sincerity across four corners of the earth. All right, Shalom. This is the brother Ramla coming at you with a quick video through the spirit, power, and mercy of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, this be edifying. So, I was looking at, Deacon Hakah's video of his breakdown of Revelation chapter 12. He kind of didn't get the full meat off the bone, basically break it down as thorough as it could be. You can call this a little nitpick or however it may be. But when it speaks about, the dragon with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, he didn't really fully go into it. He just kept it surface level on, it being the Roman Empire. All right. It didn't go into what the 7 heads and what the 10 horns are. Later on, it became to form NATO and the EU. That's what the 10 the 10 horns represent. All right. So he didn't really go as thorough on that. All right. And the 7 heads or the 7 crowns upon the head. All right. Is so it had 7 heads and 7 crowns. So the 7 heads, all right, is the Romans, the Greeks, Spain, British, Germany major and Germany minor. All right, make up the 7 heads. The 10 horns, is the EU, which make up the whole conglomerate of those nations. All right, basically all of Europe. All right. So, he didn't really go into that. All right. Also, he didn't pretty much break it down as thorough as need to be. Like in verse 6, where it do connects with, when we fled, when Judah, Benjamin, and Levi mainly fled in 70 AD from Roman persecution. All right, he said something about, it represent, when they went down into there. All right. But it is talking about that time period and basically from the time of us being separated from our land. All right. And we know for a short while, we went to Africa in 70 AD, the West Coast to be specific. All right. We did come up, various other Israelites. We were scattered across the whole earth. So, when the Roman Empire went down, all right, we came back into power during the time of the Byzantine Empire. All right. So, which, some of our people, majority, all right, did stay in the west coast of Africa, but you had some that came out into, Spain. That's why you had the Moors. All right, you had Jake ruling in England and all these different things. All right. But, the beast ultimately became the re-envisioned Roman Empire after the Byzantine Empire and things fell. Rome came back, during the Renaissance period, all right, roughly around the late 1500s to early 1600s, somewhere around there. All right, where Esau came back on the scene. All right, so, we in the time of the re-envisioned Roman Empire, through NATO and the EU and the harlot riding the scarlet beast. All right, Babylon America, which came out of Britain, man. All right, so basically, it's just could be considered a little nitpick, but, he didn't break it down as thorough. We're in a time where, if you go into a chapter, mainly, especially if you're doing the video on it, you want to, go as thorough into it as possible, man. All right, so you can leave all questions answered, or leave where somebody do have a question, or, they can still ask, but you want to make sure you cover all areas. It's like all areas of the chapter. All right, so he left a little space where, someone can get confused and get things misconstrued. All right. But nonetheless, I give him credit. It was a decent breakdown. All right, Revelation, the 12th chapter, But he could have furthermore expound about, the war that's going to take place between Michael and the angels against Esau and his armies. All right, certain things could have went more in depth on. It was only about considering after all, the ads and the promotion at the end, for the lack thereof, or the case may be, the video was ultimately possibly 12, 13 minutes long. All right, possibly I'll go, about 15, 14. All right. So, possibly, a bit rushed. All right. But he learned under great millstone. So that's how he understand majority of the chapter. All right. But he didn't go completely off and butchered the chapter. He didn't go completely, off the rails with it. All right. He pretty much kept it within context, but he could have went a little more, expounded a little more. All right. But that's just my review of his breakdown. All right. As you see by the title, he probably mainly wanted to go into the war in heaven, but he didn't fully really break it down. All right. If he wanted to go in depth on it, all right, he remained, a little surface level a bit. All right. And also, he said with the different levels of heaven, he said, the war going to be fought in the fourth dimension, which we believe. No, he said, he didn't say the war is going to be fought in the fourth dimension. He said, that's where the spiritual realm is. But what we believe, the spiritual realm is in the fifth dimension, but it can possibly be higher. We believe the fourth dimension could be, where we sleep. All right. We don't believe the fourth dimension is directly to the spiritual realm. All right. Possibly be, where our mind falter to when we sleep. All right. But yeah, man, don't want to, harp too much on it, but just my review on its breakdown. All right, it made me ultimately want to go back through it and, brush up on it and brush up on certain chapters. And that's why we got to study to show ourselves approved. So, that's the spirit right now. It's just, brush up and tighten up on the scriptures and these breakdowns, man, because, if you don't use it, you most definitely will lose it if you don't use it. All right, we got to use, what we learned in this thing. All right, so Lord willing, I'll go through certain chapters, brush up on it. All right, because you can't take, the word face value. Basically, when I say that, you can't just be a parrot. You can't watch videos and just reiterate. All right, you got to actually do the studying yourself, go through the breakdowns yourself, and draw the connection. What does scripture say? It says, prove your own self that this is the truth, that you're in the faith. You got to prove your own self that you're in this thing. All right, that's what it's about. All right, so Lord willing, is edifying. And with that being said, shalom.